Hi everyone. We're going to, I'm going to introduce the scrolls of the Mongol invasions of Japan, which is another scroll that has been made available to the internet by Bowdoin College, especially Professor Thomas Conlon, who is, I would say, the expert on the Mongol invasions of Japan and in general Kamakura period and much of samurai history. These scrolls are fascinating documents as well. We talked about the Mongol invasion of Japan during one of the previous lectures, so I'm not going to retell the sequence of events and what happened, and that is in part actually because, as you'll see when you explore these scrolls on your own, the sequence of events isn't exactly clear. We have multiple versions of this scroll, which is an extraordinary document. It was a illustrated petition for rewards, which was put together on behalf of this samurai Takezaki Suenaga, a samurai from Kyushu, who was one of the first responders, so to speak, to the two Mongol invasions, the first one in 1274 and the second one in 1281. Takezaki Suenaga really, according to this scroll anyway, which of course he commissioned, distinguished himself during the fighting and was one of these people who was a really good samurai. And that's in part because he was a complete rascal. He used to do things like go into battle, just charge into battle, more or less on his own, just so that he could claim more heads if he was somehow lucky. There was once a sortie that the Japanese forces made using small boats, and what he did was he basically just took all the boats, went ahead, and left other samurai stranded on the beach because that way he could collect more heads. So he was a really good samurai in that respect. He knew how to get rewards, or certainly how to claim that he had done meritorious deeds, and that's why we have these incredible scrolls. So as you'll see, there are three different versions of these scrolls. What I want you to do is to go to this website and explore them for yourself and see how they were put together, because it wasn't clear exactly how these scrolls were supposed to be put together. They were found in a fragmentary state, and people put it together in the 13th century in a certain way, and then in the 18th century a different way, 19th century completely redone, and then in the 21st century Professor Conlon's opinion of how this scroll should really have looked in the beginning. Then there was all sorts of alterations made to it throughout the centuries. So it's very hard to tell, as I said earlier, exactly what order some of these events happened in. Please do explore these scrolls. For example, the 13th century version, or I'm sorry, this is the 18th century version. Very, very rich, tells you a lot about how samurai looked during the Kamakura period, certainly, but also how they fought. Not to go into too much detail about this, but because we've already covered this, but basically horseback archery, right? These are, the samurai are basically groups of individuals or groups following their retainers, or retainers following their lords, going into battle, galloping, shooting at enemies who they think are worth shooting at, taking their heads, going and presenting them and hoping to get rewards. And here are these fearless samurai charging in, and then here we go. This guy is really, really out there. He's really smart, and that's because he is the one at the point of contact with the enemy. The enemy are painted as running away. Here is once again Takezaki Suenaga, who is actually being shot at. This is a projectile from a cannon For the longest time, people thought this was saying that the Japanese had firearms because, or at least catapults that shot exploding things, because it looks like that's where that's coming from. Looks like it's coming from the Japanese lines. Recent analysis has actually revealed that it was coming from the Mongol lines, which reflects other sources, and is actually exploding, kind of showering the Japanese samurai with shrapnel. Very important piece of evidence. But also evidence for, as I've claimed earlier in the lecture, that in many ways the Mongols had been fought to a standstill before the kamikaze, the divine winds, sunk their fleets. Part of the information we have for putting together an overall picture of the Mongol invasions is this scroll, a very valuable piece, because it does suggest that the Mongols were certainly not taking over Japan in the same way that they'd done Central Asia and China, etc., etc. They were having problems in addition to the weather. They were facing some severe resistance. So you have these scrolls individually, and then you can compare them side by side, the 13th century scroll and what Dr. Conlon thinks should be the original version, much smaller. Basically, you'll cover this when you explore this on your own, but there were many sections of the scrolls which historians believe were just added later wholesale. And please take the guided view as well. You will learn quite a lot. There's also a glossary. For example, you go here and you're interested to know these terms. Well, what is buntori, for example? Oh, the taking of heads. That's what that is. And eboshi, that hat that I was talking about during the introductory lecture and later on as well. The hat that acted as a helmet lining, but also had a very important symbolic value. When you receive this hat, you were a man, and this is very characteristic of early samurai dress, and certainly the dress reflects patterns of behavior that are important to them. So this scroll is an absolute wealth of information, the various different versions of it, and this website is as well.